Hey everybody, I'm going to be doing a review today on my new Husqvarna 572 XP. The biggest saw as far as Husqvarna goes that I've ever had, but I want to do a review on it because I'm pretty impressed with it. Saw I've had for probably a little better than a year. I bought this originally to go do stuff that was to do with my sawmill, but I got a Woodland Mills 26-inch sawmill. I had a bunch of stuff. I gathered up everything from logging companies that I know it'd give me big chunks, stuff that I got off jobs. Some of the stuff wouldn't fit on my mill. A lot of times I would just take, a lot of this stuff was 6 or 8 feet long. I'd just stand it up on end and I'd take and rip it with this saw. This saw originally came with a 53-inch bar and chain on it, which I'll show you in a second. I've got some pretty good piles of oak around, different thicknesses. All I'm going to need for my projects probably for a long time. So I want to start using the saw more, so I went up this weekend and we bought a Husqvarna 28-inch bar and chain for it. Just too much money to have sitting there, and I don't think letting something sit on a bench for a year at a time isn't good for any tool. I figured I'd put that 28-inch bar on it. It'd be a nice saw, and it worked out this week that I got some big oak that came in, so I can use it more. I just don't think it does any equipment good sitting, so we're gonna do a review on it, things I like about it. There's little things already that it's just weird. I put this bar on it today, but these bolts, when you loosen them up, have a flange on them so that you will never lose these. Anybody that's messed with saws at all in their life and cut firewood, especially out in the woods, one of these falls off or whatever and you lose it. Like I have a Husqvarna bag over here in the corner. It's happened to me so many times over the years. I have this bag. It actually has all the extra any little piece that you might lose. But we're gonna do a review on this. I'm gonna show it up on the hill working, cutting some logs, but I just figured we'd start the video here. This by far is the most impressive saw I've ever owned. This one here has got all kinds of, the nuts on the other side that won't fall off. Everything, the dogs on it are heavy. And for a saw that size, when you grab hold of it, the balance of it is just, they did the homework when they made this, the XP series saws. I know XPs, you can get the older style that was still called the 572 XP. They're quite a bit different than these, but they did their homework on these, I like everything about it. The gas caps, I think the oil fill cap is a little bit better. Decompressions right where you can get at it easy. I like the primer. Everything just seems to be laid out real good, to start. But like I said, we'll do a review on it. There's also, when you take this cover off, there's a divider plate in there that keeps the heat away from, it keeps the heat going out one side of the saw basically. I think it's got a little bit better grade air filter on it than my other Husqvarnas. Like I said, you can see here on my bench, I'm a Husqvarna fan. You will see some Echo stuff here. This saw here is an old saw. I don't know how old that is, but I got that out of an estate sale, and it looks beat, but it starts right up and runs good. And it's just my saw I keep for lightweight stuff. And like I said, there's another Husqvarna Rancher there. I'm not afraid of the Echo stuff. I had a couple small Husqvarnas, a couple that I let my son-in-law have as starter saws for him. I think I like the Echo smaller saws better. I hate to say that to Husqvarna, but they seem to start and run real good. They're pretty strong for a small saw. I don't think you can beat these Ranchers. That's a 460 Rancher. That's a 455 Rancher, which that saw I think is getting pretty old. This is probably that's fairly new. That's probably within 2 or 3 years old, that 460 Rancher. And that will do anything. Your average homeowner would never need nothing bigger than a Rancher. If it weren't for my sawmill, and I'm diving in a little bit deeper into doing firewood this year. I also want to point out that oil that you see on the table, nothing's leaking. It was just I overfilled it. So I don't want people thinking that new saw is leaking already. And that bar and chain it's a whole different, even compared to the Ranchers that I have, that bar is completely different. But I also, while we're here, I want to show that that's a Frostbite bar, which is pretty popular around New Hampshire, that company. You'll see those on a lot of big saws, but that 53-inch bar, that saw doesn't seem to get bothered by it. And when you're ripping down a piece of wood, you'll see the shavings that come out of it. It's just mind-boggling. If anything's going to drag a saw down, it would be cutting that way. And it seems to handle it. So we'll go, like I said, part of this video, I'm going to show it up there when we cut some of those big logs up. And I believe I'm still going to use this. I'm going to keep this hanging in here, and I bet I use that once a year still, because sooner or later someone will send me a nice piece of hardwood that I want to try to get some stuff out of on the sawmill, and I'll use that to make it fit. There's a big difference. Like you compare, as far as your big box stores, that's probably the biggest saw you're going to get in most box stores is the 460 Rancher. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's all the saw. I mean, if I didn't do the sawmill, I probably would never have had anything bigger than a 460 Rancher. And you think they are powerful, but then when you use a saw like this 572, this thing sounds like a dirt bike when it's running. I think people think it's pretty cool when I do this video. People have been asking me too, like, geez, any tool you got, do a review on it. They really like how I do my reviews, and I've only had probably one complaint on one review I did, and then other than that, everybody's pretty thankful that I did it, and they're glad I helped them on a purchasing decision they were going to make. So, but I just figured we'd start here. I got a couple of these 460 Ranchers. I just want to show you the difference. This is all the saw most people would ever need, especially a homeowner. But I just want to do a comparison and show you it working, and then I'll put them on the bench, take the covers off, and show you the differences and stuff. But that's probably considered a commercial saw. This is probably the top end of a homeowner saw. So, and like I said, you see a lot of tree companies still use these. So they're plenty capable. So we'll do that, and then we'll try that one. Again, that saw is plenty capable. Again, this is a lot more saw. You pay a lot more for these. I believe you can buy at least 2 of those for the price of this. So it's been a while since I bought one of those, but what this costs with the 28-inch bar. I'm going to say if you watch your sales on the Ranchers at like Lowe's or Tractor Supply, you could probably buy 3 of those for the price of this. So you're not comparing apples to apples. I'm just showing the difference that I see. I'm cutting up a lot more of this big wood to split up. Also got some bigger stuff over there. I've been cutting some pretty big oaks up. Before everybody gets upset and says that should have went on the mill, the reason I got these is because they got rejected at a sawmill. They're stealing them somewhere. So I ended up with a couple loads of these because of that. I get them pretty reasonable. I wouldn't do it, but looking at that, it's going to drive people nuts. I didn't put that on my sawmill, but I tried it once and I found a steal. And even I can shop in mine for like 15 or 20 bucks, but It sometimes it has ruined a couple of the blades. So I just assume right now I need the firewood too. So we're gonna do this. So we're gonna cut up this big oak and we'll see what you guys think. I know I'm pretty impressed with how that works. Like I said, I'm used to these 460 wrenches, which I still use this a lot. I'm going to basically use that for doing this big wood. That's when you notice the difference. I mean, there's a big difference in price too, so something people got to remember. And that's plenty capable. It will do these logs. It's a little more of a fight to do it, but I think I'm going to be happy with this. I know they make bigger saws, but I think that's the biggest thing I'll ever need. But I'm going to bring them in, throw them on the bench later in the video. I want to show you the differences between little things they do different. You're paying a lot more for these bigger saws for a reason. I want to show that in the video. I'm going to use the 460 Rancher. This is what normal size firewood would be. These big logs I'm getting, like I said, normally would go to a mill. But I just want to show the Rancher cutting. That's your typical tree I cut off a homeowner's lot when I'm doing my landscape work. So I just want to show you that working on the size log it normally cuts. It's not really fair to compare that to that big saw on them big logs. But I just thought it'd be where I got them both up here. I want to show you the difference between the two. When it's like comparing apples to oranges, but a Rancher isn't a small saw. I want to show that. And like I said earlier in the video, I only got this saw because of my sawmill. We'll start out with the Rancher. Still have one 455 Rancher too. You can feel the difference. It's kind of weird. I think just newer, but it's a pretty good sized piece of oak too, so. And you can see the difference. Both very capable saws. Again, I don't think I would have bought this if it wasn't for my sawmill. And now it's worked out where I'm going to be getting some rejected logs. And that first 16-foot piece I've been getting, the base of it, what I call the bell of the tree, where they cut it off the stump. I had some this week and I cut up that were 32 inches round at the bottom. Now I'm getting these logs from guys, 2 or 3 guys this year have already dropped me off logs that are sticking around that 26-inch round mark, so it's nice to have this big a saw. Now I put the 28-inch bar on it. So I had a chance to use both of these side by side, and I told you I'd take the covers off and show you some differences. I'm gonna say again, this is the top tier that you're gonna get at a big box store, or I would say this is top tier for like a homeowner. A lot of contractors have these. Like I said, this is what I've used for years. This is something you got to go to a Husqvarna dealer to actually get these. The 572 XP, I think they make a 562, but the dealer I got this from is north of me, and he's a big Husqvarna dealer. I mean, they have saws bigger than this. That's where logging guys go to buy this stuff. But I just wanted to show this morning some of the reason you're paying so much more for this. They do all kinds of little things. So what I want to do is I'm going to pop that cover off and show you the things that are quite a bit different on these big saws. And I have nothing bad to say about the Rancher saws. But I want to show a close-up. Like that air filter is more of a commercial grade than this style. This is the style most Husqvarna saws that you're going to find at a big box store have on them. I don't want to say, I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but like I've rebuilt one saw years ago. But most of your saw brands, you'll see it's just a simple design head that when you rebuild them, what you normally get is a piston and ring kit, and then you get the new jug and head. But if you look at this one, that's pretty much what most of your Husqvarnas, when you pop a cover off, are going to look. This is what they call the XP series. I believe they call that X-Torque motor. They call them X-Torque engines. And there's a lot of difference. I mean, little things they do too, I mentioned earlier, but I didn't show it. That little cover, that little sleeve they put in there keeps the heat going out one side of the saw. But everything about this saw, like I said, I call this a commercial grade saw, but you look at the exhaust on this, that's like a stamped sheet metal muffler. Again, I've never had a problem with them. They've never rusted out. I keep a saw quite a few years. They really don't even discolor unless, I guess if you're working in the rain every day, they might, but that saw there's a couple years old probably. But you look at the exhaust on this. This is a lot more motor, but that's like a cast piece. The casing, if you look at it, you can tell everything's built a little bit heavier. I just want to show there's a reason you're paying a lot more. You look at the bottom of the saw, and this is the Rancher. So you got this casing that basically stops here. The handle that you grab is basically the undercarriage of that saw, where if you look at this commercial saw, this whole undercarriage, you're probably talking 14 inches of undercarriage, and then the bar goes to it, but that gives you a solid base to set that on. Another thing on this is just to take the vibration away from the saw. They do on these, this motor's sitting, you'll notice this handle's not one piece. I do find that 460, I used these both yesterday. I probably put 3 tanks of fuel through each one of them, cutting that wood up, maybe even 4. Neither one of these make me feel fatigued, but you do notice, because I was using both of them, and for that size saw, I didn't feel any more fatigued using it. The one thing I will say that I'm super impressed with is the way they have that saw balanced. I want to show you a little differences. These old fuel caps, when you got big fingers like me, you'll crank, when you're busy, you crank one of those on, or it gets sawdust around it. Sometimes they'll stick. They do put, I'll show you, they do put that in there so you can take a screwdriver if they get stuck on there. But that's another little thing they do on this saw. They have the flip up covers so you can get your fingers right on them good. That's one feature I like. I think they should switch all their saws over to. This handle here is a plastic handle, and it's, when you're trying to grab hold of something to get into a log, they put this is a rubber piece, and it's kind of weird, but it makes a big difference. Almost all my saws have this style. You pull the choke out and it just puts the on button up, or even when you push it in. You will find once in a while that you'll hit this, like that. If you rub your saw up, you know, on your pant leg or something, it will shut the saw off. This design seems to be a lot better. Once that's down, it's relaxed and the saw is running. You push it down to shut it off. It's tucked in there better. It may sound stupid to some people, but it actually makes a big difference. I just find too, I'm going to be right up front with people. I'm on a lot of job sites where a lot of guys will run Stihl or another brand saw, and they're always like, oh, I can't believe you don't try one of these or switch over to it. What I find when you buy a saw, let me put this camera back over here. You'll pick up a saw, like a saw this size. You hold that saw, I can hold that with one hand and I'm not like really grasping. Most saws with a 28-inch bar on them or any big saw, they'll tend to want to do this all day long on you. And this one doesn't feel it, it's balanced. I think I've always stuck with Husqvarna saws. It was my first saw. I just think they're balanced. For me, they fit me. A saw has to fit you. If you get a saw and you don't feel comfortable with it, it's probably a dangerous thing. But both of these saws to me are very comfortable to use. If you go to a fair where they're selling chainsaws, you look at a saw that's got a 28-inch bar on it. Normally when it's sitting on the bench, it's like that because it's not balanced like this. I know I'm on job sites, or I got a couple logging guys that are pretty good friends of mine. When they call me to go get those stump ends sometimes, I'll look at their saws. The saws they run are probably like $1,800+ saws. So I always look at them, they're pretty impressive. And there's a mixture. I mean, you see John Surratt, you see Stihl, Husqvarna. One of my better friends he's a good sized logging company in this town. It's nothing to see a different brand saw. I think when he goes, he price shops. I do find in my case, I did look at Stihl because one of my Kubota dealers, they sell Stihl products. For this size saw, I believe I don't want to say money amount, but this was a better deal. And I don't want to get beat up by the Stihl guys, because if you got a Stihl and you think that's the best thing in the world, that's awesome. What I'm saying is you want a saw that you feel comfortable holding and operating. And there's a big difference. I mean, the way the start switches, there's nothing about a Stihl that feels comfortable to me. That's why I don't own one. And you'll see in the background, I have Echo saws. Again, I'm not going to say nothing bad about the quality of the small Husqvarnas, but like this saw here, I bought this from an estate sale way back when. For that size, that's heavy. The reason I do these Echoes is, I don't know, a lot of people say, oh, the small Echo saws are like homeowner saws. I don't care what they are. That saw, for the size saw this is lighter than a Husqvarna. That's why I have them. Again, this feels comfortable, and most of the time what I'm doing with this is if before winter we'll go trim brush back, or in the winter if a birch tree bends over the road, I'm using this. A lot of times I'll be standing in the back of my dump truck so that I don't hit them the next storm. I cut them off high enough so they go back up in. I have good luck with them. They run good. They seem to have decent power. I had a Husqvarna this is a 435. I believe I had one that was smaller than this. I gave my son-in-law as a starter saw. Again, I had no problem with the quality of them running. They ran good and all that. I just felt they were heavy. So depending on what you're going to do with these saws too. But these Echo saws just seem to be lighter. But I ran these yesterday. I didn't feel any more fatigued. I'm going to guess I put 3 or 4 tanks of fuel through both of these to cut up that 4 cords of wood out of that pile. I'm going back this morning to get more too. I brought them in because I'm going to just give them a quick sharpening. But another thing I thought was weird for this size saw, this is called an auto tune. That's another thing they push on the XP series. This is new enough, so they call it auto tune carburetor basically. I don't know if that's the reason why, but like you start this up, it was 16 degrees when I was cutting. You'll find this doesn't have that cold-bloodedness. You start this, rev it once, and it's ready to go. When it's 16 degrees out, you start this Rancher and you normally got to warm it up and let it do its thing. So that's a good thing. I also found, I think the fuel efficiency of this is, I couldn't believe how long I could cut before it ran out of fuel. Even these saws, when you're using this compared to this, the fuel, you put some fuel through that when you're cranking on it. But everything about it, the filters are better, more of a commercial grade. That little plastic piece they put in, like I said, lets the heat go out one end of it. If you're not pulling in hot air, you'll end up getting a little more power out of it. And you'll find with chainsaws, like when you're running them all day long, the hotter they get, most saws will lay back in power, but that's why you're pulling the hot air in. Depending on what you're cutting for wood too. Like I was cutting all hardwood yesterday. You cut pine all day with one of these and you'll want to bring them back, take them apart and blow this all out because the fine dust will get in there. So, that was some of the things I wanted to show. But I want to do a review on all my tools. I've been asked on YouTube, the ones I've done, people like my reviews. I've had like one complaint on one of the, I can't remember what it was. I think a chainsaw sharpener or something. But I mean, I've had people get a hold of me on YouTube and even through they'll call me on my phone and I'll answer. They'll ask me questions about my Kubota stuff that I have and they want like real life answers. Like, do you really like it? You'll find like, you may see me get another chainsaw brand. I'm not being sponsored by Husqvarna. I've just had good luck, so I'm doing a review and I'm telling people that. Do I have a problem with other brands? No, I've had other brands. I do keep care of my equipment. That makes a big difference too. I'm partial to Husqvarna because I'm having good luck with them. I don't see any reason to change. I have Echo. Again, it's because you want something that fits you comfortably. And again, I just compared these not because they're equal, like they're apples and oranges, but I just wanted to show you some of the differences. There's a reason you're paying big bucks for these commercial saws. And again, I'm going to say I'm a landscape company that does a lot of other things. I'm going to keep doing tool reviews. I'd appreciate if you like and subscribe if you like my content, and thank you for watching.